Hi, I'm Justin Allison. Thank you so much for checking out our weekly devotional videos. I want to remind you that the whole purpose of doing these is so that you can read scripture, that you can apply it to your own life, and then that you can not really have to watch videos, that you can just open up the Bible, read it. You have principles and practices in mind to use so that you can apply it to your own life, and then you can be off on your discipleship journey on your own. Today, we are going to pick back up in Proverbs chapter 4. We're reading this collection of ancient wisdom that Solomon has made for us. And today, we're going to pay attention to a repeated phrase again. Sometimes these repeated phrases, they're on purpose, I think, but they're on purpose to try and show us something, to teach us something about what's important. And so I want to look at Proverbs chapter 4, and we'll start in verse 20 today. So verse 20 begins with, "My child, pay attention to what I say." In the chapter, it's repeated several times. My child, pay attention. My child, listen to me. That kind of thing over and over again. And so here, pay attention. You know, I don't know about you, but that's hard for me. There's a million things competing for my attention right now, emails, notifications, news, maybe that thing I said yesterday that I wish I could take back. Or maybe it's the conversation that I need to have with somebody tomorrow. There's a million things. But Solomon says, pay attention to what I say, listen carefully to my words. Listen carefully. So when we listen carefully, that means it's not casually. It's not something that we're doing while we're doing something else. It's not something that we do while we're scrolling. It's not something that we do while we're thinking, just in the background. It's carefully. And then he says this in verse 21. He says, "Don't lose sight of them. Let them penetrate deep into your heart." And so penetrate deep, not just bouncing off the surface, not just floating around in your head for a few minutes, but deep into your heart. It's like when you take a walk and you think about something for the duration of that walk, let it go deep into your heart. Why? Well, because verse 22 tells us that these words, for they bring life to those who find them and healing to their whole body. So life and healing, and these words, this wisdom from God, it's not just information. It's not just good advice. It's not just something nice. It's actually life. And and what if the reason that you and I feel so tired when we get to middle age, we're so worn down at the end of the week, or maybe so stuck in a job or a relationship or whatever? What if it's because we've been paying attention to the wrong things? What if we really need to pay attention to the wisdom of God? What if we've been letting the wrong voices penetrate deep into our heart, and we need to turn and let God's voice, God's wisdom penetrate deep into our heart? And what I'm asking is, what if there's a different way that actually brings healing rather than feeding into the machine of social media or whatever it is around us? And that's what we encounter in verse 23. It says, "Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life." And so here the proverb says to guard your heart above all else, not just some things, not when it's convenient, but when it's difficult, when you have to put restrictions on your phone, or limits on app usage, or maybe you have to decide what you're going to talk about and not talk about. We have to guard our hearts above all else, because this is the critical part here, because it says your heart, determines the course of your life. determines the course of your life. Everything flows from your heart, your words, your actions, your reactions, your relationships, all of it. So what are we letting into our hearts? What are you paying attention to? What are what am I letting penetrate deep? Because whatever that thing is, Jesus tells us is going to come out in our words and our actions and in our reactions. And so we have to watch what we let into our heart. And then Solomon gets really specific here, really specific. And he says, avoid all perverse talk. Stay away from corrupt speech because our words matter. Not just because they can make someone mad or happy or whatever, but because they can shape us. And I don't mean that in a words have power sort of thing, but when we repeatedly think or talk in certain ways, neuroscientists tell us that these create pathways in our brains. And so it organizes the way we think and act and talk. And the more we do it, the more it happens in those same routes and the same patterns. And it gets difficult to break out of those things. And so it's helpful for us to see that Solomon doesn't just say, be careful with perverse talk. He says, avoid it. Stay away from this kind of thing. Don't go near it. So rather than going near it, what are we supposed to do? Look straight ahead and fix your eyes on what lies before you. Work out a straight path for your feet. Stay on the safe path. And so eyes straight ahead, locked in, you know, ready to go forward, being intentional, being deliberate, not drifting along. And it's so easy for us to get off course in life, get taken in a direction we didn't intend to go. And that we call that getting sidetracked. And that's what this next verse talks about. Verse 27 says, don't get sidetracked. Keep your feet from following evil. We don't usually make a conscious decision to just go off course and ruin one of the things we were aimed at. No, we tend to get distracted. We start paying attention to something else, and before we know it, we're somewhere we never intended to be. And so the question from Proverbs chapter 4 is, what do we need to do today? Maybe it's turn off some of the noise. Maybe it's put the phone away. We try to do that at my house when we come in the door to focus on family. Maybe it's guarding what it is you're paying attention to, whether that's TV or podcasts or music or whatever that may be. You'll have to figure that one out. But maybe it's guarding what you're paying attention to. Maybe it means being more intentional about the words and the thoughts that you have, the way that you think and speak to or about your loved ones. Or maybe it means fixing our eyes on what's ahead of us and not being sidetracked by what's in the past behind us or what's in the future in front of us. Because these words, this wisdom, it's not just good advice. It's life. It's healing. And our hearts, we're told that they are worth guarding above all else. So these are valuable things to do in our life. I hope that helps you out today. And I'd love to hear more from you. You can catch me at the information desk in between our worship services on Sunday.